Today we are going to be going through 5 things that I wish I knew sooner, being in my near mid-20s. The first and biggest thing for myself that I've worked on is my people pleasing. This is something I have always remembered having, and it was something that always allowed me to not have boundaries with people. So I constantly found myself saying yes, yes, yes to quite literally mostly everything because I didn't know how to establish boundaries and say no. Over the past few years, I've definitely found myself saying no more often and having those stronger boundaries with people who might think that they can overstep that. This is so important because if you allow people to take advantage of you, there is unfortunately people out there who will. And they will just keep taking and taking and taking from you until you have near nothing left. And to get to that point is really isolating and something that can be really uncomfortable as well. Some tips that have helped me with people pleasing is just knowing my value and knowing that it's okay to say no and it's okay to put yourself first, because you can still be a kind person and have boundaries. I think that's something that's really important to know and remember. It doesn't make you a bad person for saying no. It actually makes you more respectable, that people understand, oh, okay, she actually said no because of X, Y, and Z. And you know what? Sometimes you don't even need to give a reason as to why you're saying no. Sometimes you just don't want to do something. Or sometimes doing this said thing for someone might actually be a disservice to yourself. For example, if someone wanted you to do them a favor, but you already had so much on your plate and you knew that by saying yes, it would put you behind everything that you've had planned for that day, and it could make you late to something you're needing to be at. So it's not fair to put yourself in positions where you know it's going to impact you in some sort of way negatively. So I think people pleasing is something that can be really hard to work on, and it does take time, but I think that we all can just make a start, and that's a step at least in the right direction. The second tip I have is stop allowing other people to project their feelings onto you. It's not fair that someone else thinks they can't do something and they can't achieve something, and to then project it onto you and say, oh, that's such a unrealistic goal or whatever. Like, I think people forget that when you're telling people about your goals, sometimes they will think if it's not possible for themselves that no one else can do it. So that's when people start to project their opinions and their views on things onto you and yours. So for example, if you're wanting to make a business or start a business in clothing, let's say for example, if you told one of your friends that and they totally did not think that was something achievable for themselves, they might turn around and say, oh, do you really think that's going to work? Is that realistic? They'll just make and say things that will have you doubting yourself, and I think that's really unfair, because why should someone else's opinions and beliefs impact on what you want to do in your life? 3, people will do what they want to. Let them. I don't know if you've heard of this theory. It's called the let them theory. The way that I perceive it is people will literally do what they want to do and just let them. If your friend wants to be a shitty friend and talk shit behind your back and gossip about you, let them. If your partner wants to go out and cheat on you, let them. Because at the end of the day, why should you have to beg someone? Why should you have to tell someone how they should be acting when they should just know better? I personally think if you think that cheating is okay, then you're definitely not a partner for me. And if you think that gossiping and talking shit about your friends is okay, you're definitely not a friend for me. My circle of friends are amazing, and I always feel so supported. So I know that this isn't something that I deal with, but I know in the past that this is something that I have dealt with. And it's just better to have good people in your circle who you know you can trust, who support you, and who genuinely care for you and want the best for you. There's a huge difference between someone who's in your life, for example, just to go partying and have a good time, and someone who's genuinely there to support you, especially when you need it. Those are two different things. For me, I found my people who I'm able to do both of those things with, and I think that is just something that money can't buy. You can't put a price on something like that, because some people are just so ingenuine, and I'm thankful that I've found people who care for me. The fourth tip I have is valuing yourself. What do I mean by this? Well, it kind of ties into people pleasing a little bit, but it is a separate thing that I wanted to cover, because I gave this example a few days ago on one of my stories, and I was selling something on Facebook Marketplace, and I was already selling it for like a cheap price because I just wanted to get rid of it. Like, I was so eager to. And someone literally offered to pay half of the price that I had already offered. And mind you, it was already a really good price. If I thought the value of that item was worth what I was getting offered, I would have said yes. Now, this analogy, I think, goes for in real life. If I think my value is something, in whether it's a relationship, a friendship, a job, whatever it is, if I think I'm this value, then it will carry into everything else that I'm doing. You know, do I believe I am worthy of a job offer? Do I believe I should have good friends in my life? Do I believe I'm getting treated right in my relationship? The way that you see yourself and the way that you value yourself makes such a huge impact in your life. If you don't value yourself, it will leak into everything else, and it will hold you back from things that you always dreamt of, or it'll hold you back from genuine friendships and relationships that would be so healthy for you to have in your life. I think it's really important to know the value of yourself, and again, this is something that does take time. And don't forget to reach out to friends, family, or even just a qualified professional, because your mental health matters. And if you need to speak to someone about these sorts of things, I think that's amazing, because it takes a lot of courage to get to the point where you are comfortable enough to open up to someone and trust someone as well. And leading from that conversation, your mental health is so, so important. This is something that I took a few years to kind of realize, and if you let things snowball, it can catch up to you very quickly. And I think it's just important to nurture yourself. Sometimes through work, they have counselling programs, so check if that's a benefit that you might be able to take advantage of if you're needing that kind of support as well. So this brings us to the last point, which is number 5, and that is validation from social media is garbage. I say this because my age group grew up with social media being available at our hands, through our fingertips, on our phones, iPads, whatever technology we had. And obviously the younger generations will probably feel this more, because a lot of them do have iPads and they're watching them all the time, so they're going to be very familiar with technology as well. But I think social media has really desensitized us as a society, because when we get 20 likes, we don't realize it's so much more than just 20 likes. Like, if you had a group of 20 people standing in front of you, that's a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? And I think people are like, oh, she only has like 5,000 subscribers, or she only has like 50 likes. And I feel like if all those people were standing in front of you right now, you would be like, whoa, this is like a lot of people. And I think that seeking validation from social media it can become such a rabbit hole, and it can give us that really quick dopamine hit. But I think just valuing yourself and know that it's not about the likes, it's not about the comments, it's about how fulfilled you feel within yourself, and try to not associate with your value to social media likes, comments, views, whatever. Because at the end of the day, social media could be taken away tomorrow. Like, someone could just pull the plug, although highly unlikely every single social media platform would. But if it was, what would we do? I think the world would go crazy, honestly. Another last tip that I have, and no, this is not always the case, but who you hang around does influence the person that you might become. I'm not sure if you've heard of the saying where it says, if you have 5 lazy friends, you'll be the 6th. And to a point, I do really agree with that, because my friends, we love to go shopping sometimes. We influence each other so much because we've built that know and trust with one another. So obviously, if my friend says, I'm going to go shopping, I'm probably going to say yes, because I've built that connection with her and I enjoy her company. It's a lot easier to say yes to things when they're your people than to say yes to someone who you barely know. Like, if a stranger came up to you and was like, do you want to go shopping? 9 times out of 10, I would think most people are going to say, no, I don't know who you are. But if your friend or close friend asks you, do you want to go shopping? I feel like you're probably going to say yes. I mean, I know I am. So I think that the people that we choose to hang around can really shape our future and who we become as a person as well. And that same saying goes for if you have 5 successful people around you, you'll most likely become the 6th. And it's not always the case, and it's not one shoe fits all, but I do think that who we hang around can influence and shape our lives. That's everything from me, so thank you so much for tuning in today. Comment below, do you find these tips helpful? Let me know if you have any tips that I didn't cover that you have found really helpful for yourself, because it could help someone else who's watching this, or it might be something that I could learn from too. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I will see you next time. Bye.